How would you like to discover how to thrive despite inheriting wealth? Myra Salzer will tell us how to do it, and she's the founder of Wealth Conservancy, a TEDx speaker and an advocate for inheritors navigating the complexities of wealth. And through her firm, she offers life and financial coaching to help clients harness their inherited assets and pursue meaningful goals. And she's the author of 4 books, including Living Richly, Seizing the Potential of Inherited Wealth. So, Myra, tell us more about thriving with inheriting wealth. I would think that as a person who hasn't inherited wealth, I would think that inheriting wealth is just a positive thing. And I'm sure millions of people worldwide thinking about someone who has just inherited a few $1 million, they would only see them as, wow, they are so lucky. They wouldn't think of the challenges that I'm sure they are experiencing that you brought to today's discussion. So tell us more about what are the actual challenges that inheritors face and how can someone deal with those challenges? Heal Podcast with Lily Patrascu shares longevity and anti-aging techniques to stay young forever, increase energy, overcome addiction, and live your longest, best life ever. Shared by world's most innovative, alternative, and traditional health thought leaders, healers, and doctors. Discover quantum healing strategies to heal your mind, body, and soul.
Yeah, good. I like that question. Yeah, you're exactly right. You would think that someone who has inherited money would have gone, woohoo, windfall, I don't have to work, I can do whatever. And that may be the case ultimately, but what happens is that when someone has inherited so much that their frame of reference has changed, their whole life experience changes, and they can't go back. They can't go back to the life they had been. It was simple. They may not have had to file tax returns. They, knew what their rent was. They didn't have to deal with investment managers or estate planners or life insurance salesmen or on and on and on. So they can't go back. And if they don't go through an emotional transition of mourning the loss of their life that they lost, then they're not going to be able to positively go forward. And wealth is so much more than money. Wealth is intellectual wealth, it's spiritual wealth, it's health wealth, it's community wealth. And you have to balance all of those and let the financial wealth support the other wealths.
Thank you. Tell us, what are the most common challenges that inheritors that you've worked with have had to deal with that you could say they were not expecting to deal with, but they did? And what did they do about it?
It's a process, and a lot of them just feel overwhelmed with the responsibility. They feel misaligned with their net worth and self-worth. And so if they haven't been educated. I mean, imagine being responsible for $50 million without any education. And where do you go? Where do you start? You can't tell your friends, oh, gee, I have this problem, I don't know what to do. Because they'll be getting marriage proposals and requests for loans, and it goes on and on. They have to learn to be very private, and then who can they talk to? And it's a very lonely existence. They isolate themselves. Many will not feel comfortable keeping their job if they had a job because they feel guilty about taking a job away from someone who needs it. They'll feel perhaps an obligation to give philanthropically before they're ready or before they've integrated with their own financial circumstances. What is $50 million? Does that mean you can buy a Ferrari every other day? Or does that mean that you can give away $20 million now? Or, they just don't have a sense of perspective. So until they go through the process of understanding what they have and how it impacts them and how they can impact others, then it's a very confusing relationship that they have with their money. There are specific stages that an inheritor goes through with their relationship with their money, and it starts with the innocent stage. And, so innocent, but then usually they go through a denial stage, like pretending it's not there, pretending that it doesn't exist, you don't have to deal with it, it'll all take care of itself, and living their life like they always had. And it's not until they get into the third stage, the ignorant acceptance stage. Okay, this is real. This is what I have to deal with. Now what? And then the learning, growing stage starts. And that's a long stage that we work with our clients on in terms of understanding the different aspects of wealth, from estate planning to investments to taxes to prenuptial agreements to philanthropy. I mean, it just goes on and on. And after or during this learning, growing stage, they finally see the end in sight, where they become an integrated authority and they can delegate the areas of their wealth that they don't want to deal with because it's not fun. They might not like investment management, but they can delegate that to someone else. They might not like taxes, but they can delegate that to someone else. So once they have done the learning, growing, and they become an integrated authority, then they're truly integrated with their inheritance.
Thank you. How does someone thrive with inheriting wealth from an emotional perspective? I mean, like, let's say you're looking for love and you've always looked for someone like in your neighborhood or someone who is, I don't know, making 20,000, and all of a sudden you become the inheritor of $50 million. And all of a sudden, like, okay, you can now look at some big, some other potential partners that, are a lot wealthier, perhaps, that you hadn't never considered before. Like, how do you deal with that? Or how do you deal even with the fact that maybe, let's say now you're worth $50 million, and then it's a bit of a pressure to, let's say you're starting to date someone who is making $50,000, and do you want to be like lowering your standards and sort of like maybe not going to the Ritz to eat? You continue going to Nando's because that's what he can afford. Like, how do you deal with that?
So that's an interesting question. And when a inheritor, the wealth holder, has confidence, it can change the whole way of going about having intimate relationships. But finding a partner who is indifferent to money is I think the key to success. If someone is attracted to money or unattracted to money, distances their money's evil, then relationships with that person can be hard. But if they're indifferent and they can see the real person that's there behind the dollar sign, then there's an opening for a really good relationship. I think it's harder when the female partner, assuming this is a heterosexual couple, I think it's harder when the female partner has the money, because a male can feel very emasculated. And the challenges that a male inheritor has is there's an assumption that they know how to deal with it, that they're somehow born with this genetic advantage, that they understand tax law and investments, and that's not the case either. So they have a harder time getting support than a female does. Did I answer the question the way you wanted?
Yes, and I'm also wondering, for example, for let's say a female inheritor that, let's say, has inherited $50 million, how do they deal from an emotional perspective with the challenge of now having to date someone who is, I don't know, making 50,000? Because I think there's this expectation of, let's say when you're dating, you're supposed to be invited for dinner, or you're supposed to be, taken out and so on. But then you're limited to experiences that he can afford. So how do you deal with that from an emotional perspective?
Yeah. Well, we have this program called Way into Wealth, and it's an 8-session program, and it doesn't require an ongoing retainer-based relationship, but it works with Melissa Hoyer, who's a life coach as well as a certified financial planner. And she helps people who have received money go through this program to understand what their relationship is with money and what their potential partner's relationship is with money, and then how to deal with any differences or expectations or disappointments or whatever. So having a life coach as well as an investment manager and a financial planner on staff is really helpful to those who've inherited that kind of money that aren't prepared for it. And the truth is, very few are prepared for it.
Thank you. Tell us about the most exciting success stories of inheritors of wealth that you have worked with, where there has been a transformation in their mindset and in their lifestyle as a result of inheriting wealth, and they have managed to manage the process really well as a result of working with you.
Oh, it's going to be hard to do that without disclosing identities. And we have to be very careful of that.
Generic total.
Yeah. So I think someone who knows, okay, this is what I can afford, and it's way beyond what I need, way beyond. So once we have defined the need, that nut that will support a client in the manner in which they are comfortable, and everyone has a satiation spending level, then anything in excess is a legacy. And that once they get into terms with what their nut is and what their legacy is, then knowing how much they can give to philanthropy and getting involved in the causes that are meaningful to them, and knowing how much they can give to kids or give anonymously, which is always great fun, is an avenue for becoming really integrated with their own circumstances. And a key to success, open communication when they have a partner that they can work with, and who is truly a partner rather than an appendage, is also a sign of real integration with their wealth.
Thank you.
And yes, that happens. It doesn't happen automatically, and it doesn't happen overnight, but it happens regularly where they're at ease with their circumstance.
Thank you. Tell us more about the positive outcomes that you've discovered as a whole, for example, for the kind of clients that you deal with. Did you find that the kind of clients you helped were able to positively integrate this newfound wealth into their lifestyle and to make positive changes with it in their own life? And was that mainly through keeping their wealth a secret and then managing it secretly, so that they wouldn't have a devastating impact on themselves and their family? Or what would you say was how the process that they dealt with it?
Yeah. So much depends on their upbringing. And if they were raised with wealth, we have one client who's 5th generation wealth, and we have one client who's made the money, or her husband made the money during their marriage, and they're divorced, and she had a settlement that put her in the category that we're talking about. And so in the case of being 5th generation, there are other family members that can support and they can talk to, and they can be honest, and they all have the same trust, and they all have the same circumstances, whereas the divorcee doesn't really have that kind of community. She was not raised in an environment where there was excess funds at all. And she does have family members whose financial circumstances are very, very different. And so what she has done to be at peace is to teach the values that she was raised with: working hard, giving to the causes that are very meaningful to her, and getting involved. And that creates her community. Whereas someone who's third, fourth, fifth generation oftentimes will be more involved with the family office, and have those kinds of connections too.
Thank you. What other things you would like entrepreneurs to know about thriving with inheriting wealth?
Well, I think entrepreneurs have a very different view of money than inheritors. And it's the entrepreneurs who tend to give money to their kids. And bluntly, they don't do a good job often, because they don't realize that an inheritor's relationship with money is completely different from theirs, where an entrepreneur is future-based. They're working towards the future, and there's an abundance because they've succeeded, and so they have this abundance mentality, and they are socially respected. Oh, yes, a self-made man, right? And they're confident. Whereas an inheritor is legacy-based. This is what was given to them. They're defined by their history more than their future. And there's a scarcity mentality. If I lose this, I'm not going to be able to make it back up again like an entrepreneur could, right? And they're treated with people, this is important, they're treated by people who have a hostile envy towards them. And they're often embarrassed and ashamed that they have assets that they didn't work for themselves. So back to your question about how can entrepreneurs be sensitive to that, is how they give, the manner in which they give. And I started with this hand where this is the financial branch of wealth. And as Jay Hughes would say, it needs to support all the other wealths. And if an entrepreneur can be sensitive to that and learn how to give, the manner to give in a way that enhances the beneficiary's relationship with them, with themselves, with their health, with their wealth and community, then they'll have a successful transition of the assets. I'm not hearing you. You're on mute.
Thank you. What kind of steps or routines or habits should an inheritor put in place in order to effectively channel their wealth into the types of wealth you mentioned, the community wealth and all the other ones?
The steps to take is really to understand what they have. That's step number one. And that might sound simple, $50 million, but it's never simple. It's in trust. There are rules. Is it a family limited partnership or a family operating business? They're on the board of the family philanthropic organization. There are legal things to deal with, prenuptial agreements. I mean, there are just so many things to learn and understand first. So when someone has been hit by the meteor or the tsunami of assets, to take the time to breathe deep. This is what I've got. These are my options. This is what I can do with it. And that breathing time, that decision-free zone, as Susan Bradley would say, would be paramount to getting healthy with the other kinds of wealth, having that financial wealth support the other wealths.
Thank you. What can an inheritor do to protect themselves from people's envy and hate, and also from scammers and people who are just there to like take advantage, or family members who all of a sudden remember that you exist?
Literally nothing. They have to accept that this is the circumstance they're in. They can't fix other people. They can only live their best lives and let the other people worry about their own relationship with money. And they need to learn to say no when it's necessary. No, I'm not going to be involved in that philanthropic organization. No, I'm not going to be on that board. No, I'm not going to let you loan you what money. And let the people self-select how they react and how it changes the relationship with the inheritor. So they have to learn to be tough.
Thank you. Tell us where entrepreneurs can connect with you and the solutions you offer for inheritors.
They definitely can go to thewealthconservancy.com, and we can shorten that to TWC, the Wealth Conservancy, twcinc.org, so either one. And if they're interested in that 8-part work session for Way Into Wealth, that's wayintowealth.com. And we have a YouTube channel, and you can find us on all the usual social medias.
Thank you. Follow me for more interviews with world's most innovative health change makers to live your healthiest life ever.